Hey everybody, welcome. It's Thursday night, May 17th, and we are going to talk a little bit about the power of listening. And the only reason we're doing the call is because I need to learn. So that's why I'm teaching it, because we're learning. And I'm excited to have Dee and some of y'all on the call to help really dive down listening. I don't think we can get any better in listening. What I've learned about being a coach is I've learned more about my parenting and personal relationships too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And listening is a habit and it's a skill that we can learn. So I don't think we can ever get, I was going to say good enough, or let me see, where's my screen here? Okay, hold on. So oops. Y'all try not to look. Wait a minute, I'm going to do that. All right. Oh, did I press record? I don't know that I pressed record. Hold on. I did press record. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Courtney. All right. So the top 5 reasons to stay quiet and listen. I was going to put shut up, but I didn't want to be rude. So shut up and listen. Number 5, it's easier. Seriously, we think it's so hard. You know, we always think we're supposed to perform something, but I saw this, listening is such a simple act. It requires us to be present. And that with that practice, we don't have to do anything else. We don't have to advise, coach, sound wise. We just have to be willing to sit there and listen. And Dee, do you want to share anything about how much easier it becomes, our jobs become, when we're not so stressed about having to know everything?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the past thinking I have to have the right answer for things, say the right things, and honestly, I would not be listening to what they were saying because I was truly listening to respond, like really waiting for them to pause and take a break so I could jump in. And what I realized is, even very often, by becoming a better listener and by asking questions, that very often even what somebody is telling me or saying is not even the issue. You know, like let's say they're struggling on plan, or let's say there's an objection to going on plan. That if I'll be very intentional with my questions and listening, I can usually get to the root, a better understanding of where they are, and then the communication is so much easier.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, number 4, we learn something. And you know, when you talk, and my dad told me this all the time, he goes, you never learn anything with your mouth open. Alice is always like, you never learn anything with your mouth open. So when we talk, we're repeating what we already know. But if we listen, we learn something new. And my experiences around listening, I can listen to someone that I don't even agree with and learn something about them. I can learn something about me. And I can learn what someone actually wants, what Dee just said. Sometimes we're going to jump in and offer some advice, and it's not really the issue. So by listening, we learn what they need. And one of the really cool things that I learned early on in my coaching was, what I was good at was I would listen to people around me. And if I was walking down the hall and someone says, oh, I need to lose weight, I would, kind of go to them privately and say, you know what, I heard you say something. I might have something that would help you. Would you be interested in, want to hear more about what I do, or you want to hear more about it? You want to have coffee sometime? But on this bleachers, when my kids were in sports, I would listen to what people say, and I would approach them later, not right then, and ask them, hey, I heard something, overheard you. Are you serious about learning? Would you like to have coffee? So listening was very big in my client acquisition early on, finding out what people want. Number 3, we give a gift. And this is something that when we're heard and understood, sometimes people just need someone to listen to. And Dee and I are learning and coaching, and that the biggest gift we can give someone is to be present, and we don't always have to have the program for them. No advice, no words, just a shoulder, just an ear. Sometimes that's all they need is someone to hear. We don't want to go into that with everybody or be everyone's friend, but when we're making connections, I think that is so powerful, because again, what Dee said, you can hear maybe what they want. And this is often the only thing we need. Dee, do you have anything to add around that, the gift that we give somebody?
Well, when we, there's various scenarios, but they're all related. But let's say it's part of the reason, like with the health assessment, why do we ask so many questions at the front, right? We want to make it about them. We want to hear where they're struggling. And, and when I'm listening to that, when I respond, by the time I get to the part about the program, I have listened to what they have said that they've struggled with. So like you said, we're going to offer a gift. I'm going to offer a gift or a solution that's targeted towards what they told me. So I can only know that if I'm really, really listening and asking more questions. But same thing with even with, coaching a coach, if they're struggling, it really just comes down to questions to find out where they are, what are they thinking, what's hard for them. Because I tended to be the one that wanted to jump in and give a solution, and why don't you try this, and why don't you try that, and it's better really just to listen and find out what do they think they need or want. And very often they come to their own conclusion as well in terms of what the answer is.
Well, and that is, the way that people learn is by coming up with it themselves. And, I had an experience with a client who's really struggled, and she says, it's hard for me. It's harder for me because I really like to cook. And I really like to eat. And I see people that are thin and they don't really like to eat that much. And that, and I'm like, no, everyone really likes to eat. But, I didn't say that. And I go, you're right. It is hard. And I tell you, and I said, we can switch it up for you. We can send it back. And didn't hear from her for 10 days. It was her, and so I always think, okay, she's gone. It was her birthday. It was a birthday weekend. She was struggling with. I said, well, just go out to lunch for your birthday. It doesn't matter. But 10 days later, she was back on plan, and she says, you helped me by when you said it was hard, and you heard me. It helped her get over her. Wanting to, that little child in us that doesn't want to give it up, that resists. So she let down her resistance, and she says it was because you said you heard that it was hard for me. So I thought that was really cool, because we don't know if our program's right for everybody. We don't know if someone's ready, but I guarantee you they come back. And so if we can listen and understand where they're at, they really feel heard. Number 2, we receive a gift. And I don't know if any of y'all have experienced this, but when we give, we receive. And my experiences lately of hearing people and understanding them and just listening, even though I don't agree, man, I get a gift. There is something that comes over me where I can't explain it. It's just a gift. And Dee, do you want to add anything about what you receive from it?
Yeah, it takes the pressure off. I think that when we're really just asking questions and listening to understand without any attachment, like you said, like that particular client, like you gave her off the hook. Like, okay, well, if it's not going to work, or you want to go out for, lunch on your birthday, okay. Again, there's a fine line with coaching when we do want to encourage them if, they're just making excuses. But I don't know. I think when you're just listening to understand, you're not attached to the outcome. And I find that extremely freeing now when I'm like offering the health coach opportunity to somebody or whatever. I'm listening to hear where they are in their world and how I might have something that's a solution. But if, I learn a lot about them. I learn a lot about how other people think. And I've learned a lot that there's a lot of common denominators in how we think in human behavior. So it's just been an interesting learning experience.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The humanness in somebody else. And we all are on the same journey, and we're all not perfect of anything. So we all every time we can understand a client and hear them, or coach, or a friend or child, we can it's something for us. We're there. We can relate to what they're going through if we try. I wanted to share something that someone says, thanks for, it was someone, one of my clients, when I was hearing, she even wrote, thanks for hearing me, or thanks for understanding me, or whatever, thanks for listening. And so it's kind of cool that I received that, and that was a gift for me. So here's something that I thought was a really cool quote. Wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you would rather have talked. So and the number one reason, be quiet and listen, is our advice is not as good as we think it is. Seriously. And even though this is from the Coaching Habit, Mark Stanier, even though we don't really know what the issue is, we are quite sure we have the answer they need. That's what you talked about, Dee. All right, so I want to hear from everybody else. I'm going to stop sharing real quick, and then we'll go on to the next part. But what, of course, that's if I knew how to stop sharing. All right, I'm not going to stop sharing because that would be too difficult. That's the one thing I don't like about computers. They don't listen, they don't talk, they don't tell me anything. I got to figure it out myself. So, Zena, what's your experience? I was going to say you're a pretty new coach, and you do unmute yourself.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's a big thing for me. I mean, it's a big learning to listen. I always tell Dee that, and I acknowledge her for that. How she listens, because when she repeats something back, she heard that and she was listening. And, so that is a big, big learning for me. Being a hairdresser all my life, all we did is talk, talk, talk. And then when I was in real estate for 4 years, my boss told me the first one speaks loses, in that kind of thing. So, this is a big one for me to practice. And I know this is just so important. I just to hear what their needs are. So I'm in the learning. I'm, really working to keep my mouth shut and listen. And again, one of the things that was said, when I hear doing a health assessment and you hear them, and like today, I had somebody who just kept talking and talking and talking. And it was like, oh my God, I kept wanting to get back in to stop that topic. But and then my thing is that I not to give them the advice, really listen to what their problem, their issue, their need is, without me wanting to jump in and tell them what they should do. So that's a big thing for me. I'm learning. I'm keeping my mouth shut as much as I can. But this is a great, great topic for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you for always learning, because like I said, I don't think we ever get to where, we're perfect at it. That's what I think I love so much about coaching, is we can always get better at listening, asking a question, understanding more. So it's pretty powerful. So thanks. That's so funny. As a hairdresser, all I do is talk. It's so funny. You're right. Like, so, all right. So I want to, let's just go straight into how to listen. And so this I thought was really a cool awareness. Listening is about being present, not just being quiet. And, you know, it's one thing not to talk, but it's another thing to really be present and not be on, you know, checking emails. When that's the danger, kind of, Zena, when you were talking, when someone keeps going on, the danger is to tune them out and, you know, kind of look over and see something and tune in. So being present is really important. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe we can talk about that. When someone keeps going on and on, how do we get back in? Cindy had that same issue this week as well. So she had asked me about that. I go, gosh, I don't really know. So we'll talk about that. Maybe Dee knows something, or Joel and Audrey know something. And then it's just it's a way of being. I think listening to understand, it's a way of being, and, you know, genuine desire to see the humanity in someone, like Dee said, and not necessarily know and have an agenda, not necessarily know maybe this program isn't right for them. A lot of times we will say it's not right for them now. So I think that, anything you want to add? Dee, you want to add anything else? I can only see a few of y'all on the call. Okay. All right, so this is a self-assessment. This is what this comes to my mind a lot of times, that what gets in my way or what gets in others' ways is, you know, are we doing what we're asking others to do? Many times the most critical, when I find myself being critical of somebody, usually I might need to learn the same thing, and it's just becoming apparent to me. The other thing that's real big, and this is as much with my kids as with my clients, are we trying to fix somebody? And I don't know if you know what it's like to be, you know, someone tries to fix you, like someone's trying to help you a lot. And that happened to me recently. And I'm like, wait, you know, what are you really trying to say? What do you need here? You know, and it makes you feel bad. It makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. And I know my son had told me that, like, when I say certain things, it makes him feel like he's being criticized. That's not my intention, but that's how he feels. And it's got to be really careful, because we don't mean to make someone feel bad, but we do when we try and fix them. And when we're solving their problem, you know, like Dee was sharing, is that, and Zena too, like, we don't always know what their problem is. And what do we need from our clients? Like, if we need approval, not going to work. We need to be liked, not going to work all the time. If we need to be, you know, if we need them to respect us, not going to work. You know, what do we need from our clients? Is it filling our perfectionistic need to be responsible? Are we feeling responsible, like we should be something? So really watch that. And I love the training on Saturday. I don't know if y'all watched it, but the training on Saturday, being the guide versus the coach and teacher. And that they really went into a little bit more detail on what that means to be a guide, walking beside somebody. And so we're a guide, not necessarily the be all and end all. And I like this one. Before giving advice, we must have secured its acceptance, or rather made it desired. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about how do we ask questions, how do we gain agreement, how do we connect with someone so that we're able then to give advice. Because like we said, there's a fine line. They are coming to us and asking, but how do we do that? And so there's we want to create some kind of agreement. I'll go ahead and share mine, what I put, but please, I would love to hear everybody else's. Yeah, sometimes you might. That's the last one. Okay. So these are some great questions to ask when we are moving forward. Look, so if we're in this and we don't know what to ask, we don't know what the next step is, how do we transition? All right, tell me more about that. So when we hear somebody talk about price, or if we hear somebody like my client whose birthday it was, you know, I just like food too much, and I want to go out to dinner went out to lunch with my birthday. All my friends want to take me out to lunch. Tell me more about that. because we know going out to lunch, that we can go out to lunch on program. We know that. What's the biggest challenge for you? What else? What do you want? You know, like, what does she want? Does she want to maintain her weight? Does she want to lose weight? Does she, what does she want? And usually what people want is they want to lose weight but not do the work. And then you can make some kind of funny, like, oh yeah, well, I said, yeah, I'd love that too. I haven't figured that out yet, but just give me time and I'll let you know when, when I'm able to give everybody that. But sometimes they'll come to that own conclusion. They want to lose the weight. They still want that goal. They do, but they don't want to do the work, what it takes. And they come up with that. And that's pretty cool. And then what was most useful about what we spoke about? This is something that is I forget to do this question, but it's a really good one. So what was most useful about what we talked about today? That way they're telling you what they got from it. And I think that's really important. And when I do this question, I'll get something, because then they're telling you what you're doing well. Let's just say that, and what's important and what they find valuable. So they're telling you more about themselves. And then I'm going to go on one more, and then we'll go ahead and we'll open it up. So here's the bridge to information, which I think is really an important one. Thinking about when they're done, when you're talking to them, and really asking questions. And Paul, Dee's coach, says, when you think you know everything, ask 2 more questions, and what else, or tell me more about that. And so, I mean, sometimes I haven't gone that far, but it really is about spending some time with people and investing a little bit more and finding out what's important to them. May I, and really, do we have something that can help? I know Cindy was concerned the other day. She says, this guy wanted a healthy mind, and he was meditating and he was doing all these things. And did we have something that can help him? And it's okay if we don't, because he was already, really into some things about healthy mind. And so we talked about what other things we could offer, but it might not be that necessarily what he needed. Ask permission. May I share something with you? I had a thought, or can I share some of my experience with you? Would you like to learn more? So always asking permission. And I learned that Amber Smithson was really good about that. A client was going on a trip, and she says, would you like me to share with you some ways to do that? I would have gone on and just said, okay, I'll tell you what to do. Okay, you're going on a trip. Okay, here's what you want to do. Says, can I tell you? I go, oh, that's so cool. So anyway, all right. So I'd love to hear. Now I'm going to stop sharing. I don't know exactly how I can do that. That's Al. Yay. All right, Courtney, I want to hear a little bit from you around experiences around listening. And you have 4 kids, so I don't even know how you probably just tune things out. So, right? And so now you're being asked to listen, what?
Yeah. It's interesting that you asked that. My oldest is 7, and I feel like I'm always trying to get her to not feel certain things. So I kind of if she comes home in a bad mood, then I'm like, come on, what's your problem? Why are you so upset about this? Everything's not that bad. And what she really needs, she's been holding it together all day at school. She's a rule follower, people pleaser. What she needs is for me to just listen and be like, tell me how bad it was. And inside I'm like, this is insane. But what she needs is for me to go, it's okay that you feel that way. And I'm really bad at that. And I've seen her almost blow a gasket in other areas because she's holding it all together all the time. And if I just listen and just say, is there anything else? Then she's like, well, actually, yeah. And she'll give me more and she'll give me more. And so I was lamenting, I feel like I'm losing her. She's not connecting with me as much anymore. And as I have been open, or I'm listening and almost looking for things hey, if you come home in a bad mood, I'll still be happy to see you. And she was like, really? you know, like listening, I feel like was the key for a lot in our relationship, at least. So helpful.
Bam.
Yeah.
Bam. Nothing better, right?
Yeah. So worth it.
Yeah, and then you got a gift, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I got to come in.
You got to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah. It's really it's really very cool. Very, very cool. Well, thank you. Julie, you are a trainer and people come to you for advice. How do you balance that with coaching when people, and learning a different, I guess, skill set or way to come at it? Or do you find that the coaching helps your training or vice versa?
Yeah, it's it's kind of been an interesting progression. I would say as a trainer, you're almost like the person that wants you want to fix everything, and people come to you and expect you to solve the problems for them, help them get the weight off, make them work out, get them in a routine. You're going to be the magic person that's going to fix everything. Dee and I were doing a celebration call last night, and the way I explained it to somebody else is, as a trainer, it was like all the pressure was on my back. And I always worried, like, well, if they don't follow this meal plan I gave them, or if they don't do this workout on their own, they're not going to get the results. And it was all on me. What I find so freeing as a health coach, and especially having Optavia as our tool, is it's not me, it's them, right? And if we listen to what they're wanting and they have a goal and we're just helping guide them to get there, it's truly their decision. It's not if they ate the food, if they did what I said, it's what do they want? Did they keep to what they said they wanted? So then it's always I can turn it back and say, like, well, how did that play out? Tell me more, talk about that. And I can find out, well, and then they start to hear, like, well, I ate that and I did that and I was frustrated and I ended up eating this. And I'm like, so that's kind of what your body's going to do in response. Do you want to do that again? And like, so you can keep digging with them. And it's all on them. It's not me. And so I feel very free as a trainer now, because I pretty much have every client doing the program as well. I don't have to worry. It's really their choice, and we're just their guide. So I found it very freeing to listen and let them do the program and not worry.
That is cool. That is a good win. And sometimes I've noticed when people hear themselves talk, like if you don't jump in with answer and they hear themselves talk, they'll hear the ridiculousness of it. Someone was getting off the program for Monday, and then she says, well, I haven't lost weight in 2 weeks and spending all this money, and that's why I stopped last time. And she just kept hearing herself. And she says, well, I probably don't spend as much money. I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's transition you, let's, and then she didn't want, no, I'm not ready for that yet. And, she said, I guess I spend more money, I spend less money than I do at Whole Foods. So, so she heard herself without me trying to answer something and fix it and help her see, oh, you spend less. So, but it's not always an easy thing. So I'm glad that you got that win. Audrey, you have the same thing. Thanks, Jules. You're a nurse, and so people come to you for advice.
Yeah, I was just gonna follow right behind Julie and say that, because I'm a nurse, Joel's a doctor, but we have to be careful about what roles we're playing for our clients. So I usually, it's great that we have the medical background, because that gives us credibility and it helps us to attract some people. But we want this to be their journey. So I always say, and Joel says as well, I am a nurse, but I'm not your nurse. So, I want to come to them as a health coach, as somebody that's gonna, help them to find the answers. I had a situation with a new client. She takes thyroid medication, and I could have gone through the whole medical thing of why you have to separate the food, and to, which meals to avoid, the soy meals versus the whey meal and all that. But that would have given me credibility, but she wouldn't have learned anything, because I wouldn't, she wouldn't have been, exploring it on her own. So I just told her briefly, well, there's a way to work with that thyroid medication. And then I sent her something, that was on Optavia Learn about thyroid medication and Optavia fuelings. And so this way she's got that as a resource. And, always thinking in my mind, you want to model being a health coach so that they can be a health coach. And when they come to that point, that you don't want them to think, well, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a trainer, I can't be a health coach. You can always say, we got the information. It's just as easy to, pass it on to somebody else.
Oh, that's great, Audrey. I love that. Even though you knew what to tell her, you sent her to Optavia Learn or sent her something from Optavia Learn. So she had the tool herself. That's brilliant. I love that. And that took a little more time because you could have just told her. So I really like that. Very cool.
And now she owns it.
Now she
for
owns
herself.
Exactly. Dee, you want to finish, wrap us up and last words, final words?
Well, I think it's just something, I'm glad that you had the call, Susan, and like Zena said, this is a skill. We can learn it. We can all learn it. Just pay attention to yourself. If you didn't, if you hang up on a call and you're like, whoa, I jumped right in, just, give yourself some grace and forgiveness and just pay more attention next time to it. Like Susan said, I think that you find it easier in the long run. And I find that things just don't bother me as much in the conversations, because I used to feel like, well, what if I said something different or whatever, that I would have the perfect answer for them. And I've just realized it's so not about that. And so, like you said, it just makes the whole process easier. Just, the art of asking questions and listening.
And it makes it so much easier. Just love that, right? It's the hard work and the heart work, and then it makes everything else easier. So well said. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.
Zena.
I just want to say, how this call really helped me. And, that's so, the things that first of all, Courtney, that was so important. We all just want to be heard. That is a big, big thing. And the other things I really got from this was, would you like to learn more? Like when someone's going away and what they do, and I'm ready to throw that into them and all the information. I really love that. And that's really good information for me. And what was that? What was the most useful about what we spoke about? That, I love that question, because you really get that feedback too. So that was powerful for me. And so how did that feel for you? That's a big one. Dee says that. I hear that, all these little things, and that's great. So thank you for this call. And, I'm learning.
Yeah, you sure are. You're doing well.
Thanks.
And, I keep a little, sometimes I keep them on, a little index card or a note, when I'm trying to remind me to say that, or to say things that I'm working on. So thank you,
That's
guys.
Great. Thank you. Thank
sharing.
you.
Loved it. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.